Welcome to the podcast, Hopeful Horizons, the bridge where hope and healing meet. Our mission is to create the environment and resources to get people across the bridge from the post-COVID experience to a future filled with hope. Please welcome our host, Holly Porter, founder of Adventure Bucket Wish Foundation.
Today we have with us Emmanuel Velez, and he was born in Puerto Rico. He joined the Army right after college as an infantryman with combat tours to Iraq. He's worked in IT healthcare almost 10 years, and he recently opened his own business in the solar industry. He met his wife, Deleuze, for 10 years ago, and they've been married now for 6, and together they have a son who we'll hear about in the story. His name's Mateo, and he's a 3-year-old monster, he says. Most of them are 3 years old. Welcome to the show, Emmanuel.
Thank you.
Oh, we're happy to have you on here. Well, your story is definitely unique, and along with your wife, and you both went through this journey together, and so I'm sure it's going to be juicy. But will you just kind of start from the beginning and share your version and what you went through with COVID and the date, like approximately when it was? Give us those, because everybody suffered from COVID some way, somehow. And if you give us the date, it kind of puts them where they were at that point in time. So go ahead.
Right. So yeah, like you said, my name is Emmanuel, and of course, I'm here today to share my side of the story, right? So everything started back in 2020, like June 2020, in the middle of the U.S. shutdown due to COVID. I was blessed, and I was working from home. My wife as well. She was pregnant at the time, like you guys know. And it still boggles my mind because back then we were living in an apartment and we never left the apartment. We were like thinking about John Deleuze, you cannot get sick, risk, and whatnot. So we were like in this bubble for a long time during that shutdown. And one day, she started having symptoms, and I was like, "Huh, this is not good. Maybe just a regular cold, right?" And a couple days after, her fever started going and raising, and she was like burning. And we were like, "Okay, let's go and take a Tylenol. You should be good." But of course, in the back of our mind, we had this fear. Oh my God, this is going to be COVID. This is going to be COVID. And eventually, yes, it turned out to be COVID.
But back then they didn't have tests, right?
No. Back then, pretty much we had to go to the Orange County Convention Center to get tested.
Right.
And I remember myself, I went there and I was in line like for over 3 hours just to get tested. But anyways, just going back to the story, I told John Deleuze, "Hey, let's go to the ER." So we went to the ER. They got her checked in. They did a test, and they were like, "Hey, we cannot get the results because back then results were taking forever."
Right.
And they were like, "Hey, just go home, drink a lot of fluids, rest." We came back home, and like a day or two after that, her symptoms got worse, to the point that I got so scared one night that I was like, you know what, we need to go back to the ER regardless. And we waited till the morning. Of course, pretty much, I was so scared that pretty much she was like shallow breathing at that point. And I was like, "Hey, you got a baby, you're pregnant, you don't look well," because even her face changed color. It was not just a normal color. And I told her, "Let's go to the ER." So pretty much I had to carry her down to the car to take it to the ER. So I took her back to a different ER. This time she got admitted. They checked her oxygen levels, they were dropping. So anything below 92%, you had to go to the hospital.
Right.
And hers, it was in the 80s. So she got admitted, and they were like, hey, you cannot go in because you were exposed to her. You cannot go in. Even though that I had my test done, I was not able to confirm because I had no symptoms whatsoever. This is the
Wow.
interesting thing about this. I had no symptoms whatsoever, and I was like, okay. So her family showed up at the hospital, and they were like, "You guys cannot go in," and we were like, "All right, guys, we understand this is something new, but come on, right?" And I understand their point of view. They were trying to protect their clinical staff, and of course all of the patients that they're in the hospital that they're not sick with COVID. But
Right.
I still believe that the healthcare system could have done better because in my case, like, I was not allowed to be with her. Her family was not allowed to be with her. Pretty much when we were in the ER, actually we were outside of the ER. One of the nurses came and she said, "We're going to transfer her to the delivery department." I said, "Oh, okay, that is a good thing." She was doing okay, so she got transferred to a different unit. And again, we were not allowed to go inside the hospital. We were just waiting for the nurses to come down to give us an update. So it was a lot of feelings. It was a roller coaster, to be honest. To the point like, come on, guys, we need to know about the baby and also know about Jandelise. But they were very vague with the information that they were providing. So she got transferred to a different unit. So her oxygen levels they dropped even more. So they had to perform a emergency C-section. We were not told about that because it happened so quick. They performed the emergency C-section, and they took the baby away. She was not allowed to hold the baby. Pretty much, one of the nurses took a picture with her phone and showed the picture to Yandelise. Uh, that same nurse, I'm not 100% if it was the same nurse, but that nurse came down and pretty much showed me that picture. Said, "Oh,
Oh.
here's your son." And I didn't see his face. All we saw was his back. We didn't see his face. And we were like, what about John Delise? And they were like, "Oh, she's doing better and she's in recovery now." I said, "Oh, okay, so that is a good thing." And again, we were like, "Can we go in? Can we see the baby?" And they were, "No." We got like a straight no. And it was heartbreaking because at least myself as a parent, I was ready to be there with her, to see the baby, to support her, to hold her hand, but that never happened. That never happened. And it was, like I said, it was something new, but I still believe that the healthcare system should have done better. At least, we have PPA, we can wear masks, gown up, at least go in for 2 seconds, see the baby, and then, we can leave the hospital, but we were not even allowed to do any of that. It got to a point that the hospital were demanding, hey, you guys need to get tested. But back then, the tests they were taking forever. So that was another challenge. Mateo was fine. One of the things that we were told by the hospital was, hey, we want to make sure that he's not sick with COVID. We don't know if he got sick with COVID. Of course, eventually Mateo was fine, but because we were waiting to get our results, we were not allowed to go to the hospital and pick up Mateo from the hospital. So a week passed by. We were allowed to go and pick up Mateo. Of course, I tested positive for COVID, so I was not allowed to go to the hospital. It was not in the book for me to pick up Mateo from the hospital. So Jandeli's mom, she tested negative, so she was the one that picked up Mateo from the hospital. Now she was doing fine. I was talking to her on the phone like on a daily basis. But she had some rough nights where her oxygen levels were dropping. Um, at that point, she was on oxygen, supplemental oxygen. She was doing okay. And I remember one night I got a call in the middle of the night, and they were like, "We had to intubate your wife," and I was like,
Mm.
"What is happening, guys?" He said, yes, we had to intubate your wife. Right now, she's on a ventilator. And I was like, but why you guys waited this long to tell me? And they were like, hey, it happened so fast
Mm.
that we had to intubate her. So that happened. And I was like, what I do? So I tell the family, hey, this is what's going on. I got a call from the hospital. I gotta go to the hospital. So I rushed to the hospital in downtown Orlando, and they were like, "You cannot go in." And I'm
Mm.
like, "But please, I need something. I need information. What is going on? For how long she's going to be on a ventilator?" And they were, "We don't know. We don't know." And that day, I went back to the garage, and I broke down.
Yeah.
That time, I know, wow, like probably this is the last time I'm gonna see my wife. And it took me like 2 3 hours just to come back down to my sense, to a point that okay, now I'm ready to drive, and I'm ready to go back home, and I'm ready to tell the family, guys, this is what is happening, but I don't know anything. Again, the hospital was so vague with the information that they were providing. Like at one point, yeah, I was very disappointed.
Yeah.
I was disappointed. So, and the thing is, the hospital, they were just calling me like once in the morning and at night. And they were, okay, so she's on a ventilator, we're giving her medication, yada, yada, yada. She's okay. But I never got like a real answer.
Yeah.
It was not a real answer. And I'm like, guys, she's on a ventilator. It's going to be like 2 weeks now. Well, what is going to be the next step? Oh, we're trying this, we're trying that, medication, you name it. I don't know all of those medical terms, but every time was a different story. Every time, like in the morning, they were telling me one thing, and later in the evening, they were telling me something different. So I was like, guys, come on, you guys need to, be on the same page, because like I know I sound like a broken record. We were not allowed to be in the hospital. So one thing is when the doctors and the nurses, they tell you something, but you are there in the room with the patient. Like, okay, I have some hope. I'm standing or sitting next to her. You know, if things are going south, at least I am there, right? That never happened. So one day, I get a call from a medical director, and they were like, "Hey, there's nothing else that we can do. Her lungs are filling up with fluids. Um, the body is not getting rid of the fluids, and she's on the ventilator, and it's nothing else that we can do." And I was like, "Guys, come on! It has to be something." So the medical director has a friend in some other hospital here in Florida, and they were like, the only thing that we can do for her is to put her on the ECMO machine. I never heard what was the ECMO machine ever in my life, even though that my background is in IT healthcare. I never heard what ECMO was.
Right.
And it happened so fast. They were like, We're gonna transfer her to a different hospital. She's going to get airlifted. She's going to the OR at such hospital. They're gonna do this procedure, and she's going to be hooked up to the ECMO machine. And I was like, okay, all right, you guys say so. If this is to save her life, go for it. So as a family, we made that decision. Yes, it's okay. You guys can transfer her to a different hospital. You guys can do this procedure. And of course, this is what's all new to us.
Right.
And to the downtown Orlando, sorry, to this other hospital. And we met with the surgeon right after he finished with Chandelier's procedure. When that happened, I was already negative to COVID because I got tested a second time, came back negative. So that was a good thing. And actually, that day when we met the surgeon that did the ECMO procedure, that's when actually the nightmare started. That was like the cherry on top. Not in a good way. The surgeon who was like, oh, she's going to be on the ECMO for 10 days. She's going to be better. We can wind her off the ventilator. So she should be up and running in less than a month. And we were like, oh my God, this is awesome. So I came back to because back then I was staying in Jandelisa's parents' home because they were helping me with Mateo. Another challenge with me is, even though that back then I was working for a healthcare organization, they gave me a run for my money when it comes like, guys, I need to take some time off.
Yeah.
It was really sad that a healthcare organization, they knew because I told them what it was happening, what I was going through, and they were like, okay, so these are your options. You can take FMLA, but the way it works for that company that I used to work with, they were like, we're gonna cut your benefits. You can take some time off, but we're gonna cut your benefits. And I was like, I'm not doing this because, one, my wife is in the hospital. We need insurance. Two, I have a newborn at home. I need my benefits. Something happens. I need my benefits. So pretty much I was stuck between working
Yeah.
10, 12 hours a day, looking after a baby, and actually harassing the hospital to give me some information about my wife's condition. So the ECMO procedure went well. So, and then we went back to square one. They were calling us like once or twice a day. Every time I called the hospital, they were just bouncing me around just to get a hold of anyone that, it was taking care of my wife. Like some days, I got so many receptionists. I said, "Oh, you're calling the wrong number," and I'm like, "But guys, this is the phone number that you gave me. Why I'm calling this phone number and you're telling me I'm calling the wrong phone number? I'm just trying to get some information about my wife." So that was the other struggle, and every day it was a different story. Oh, she's doing well. Oh, she's not doing that well. We're trying to win her off the ventilator, the ECMO machine, and yada yada yada. So she had a cannula in her neck and one in her groin area. So she was like that, if I'm not mistaken, like for 2 weeks. Then they decided to remove that cannula from her groin area, and they place it back next to the other cannula in her neck. So pretty much her neck is full of scars. And that's another thing that I don't understand why they did that. Because they tried to anchor the cannula on her face, like her jawline. If you look at her face, you see like the stitches because they were to hold the cannula. And I understand it was something new, but come on, it's back then it was 2020. Is better, better procedures, just to put it that way. I understand that they did
They probably didn't think
sure.
she'd live either, right? They were
Right.
just, whatever. It's
Yep.
just the body count was adding up at that time and nobody knew anything. And I'm sure a
Right.
lot of people with COVID didn't end up on ECMO machines because they didn't get that far,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Right. And I understand that they did things in a rush to save her life, and I'm grateful for that. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I have mixed feelings, of course, but they did everything in order to save her life.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, like being with Mateo, so that little thing that it fits just in, I can hold him with one hand back then, and she never got to experience that,
Right.
and that broke my heart every single day. Like, I know I was with Mateo, I was spending time with Mateo, but she was not. And at one point, like, I feel that guilt that I got to experience that, but her as a mom, she never got that opportunity.
Hmm.
And if I can go back in time and figure out what to do not to get sick, oh, I'll do it. If
Sure.
I can push a button and go back in time and do whatever needs to get done for her not to get sick, trust me, in a heartbeat, I'll do it. But that
That's
was not the case, right? Unfortunately, that was not the case. So, and again, she had, it was like 8 different doctors. She had
wow.
a pulmonologist, a cardiologist, an infectious disease doctor. Oh, geez. Like, I lost track, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it took me a while. I want to say like almost a month going to the hospital. I said, guys, you need to get this right. When it comes to communication and updates, you guys need to get this straight. You guys need to be on the same page. To a point that it was this female doctor, like every day when she called me, she was, oh, she's not out of the woods, she's not gonna make it, yada yada yada. And one day I got so upset that I went off on her. And I don't regret that. I don't regret that, because we used to pray for John Deleuze every night, every night. And we believed that she was coming out of the hospital fine and in good health.
Right.
But when you see a doctor that they only look at the science, right? Oh, we're looking at her lungs every day, and her lungs are not doing well. Oh, the fluids are not draining. And I'm like, okay, I understand that, but you guys have her on a ventilator, on the ECMO machine, and at that point she already had chest tubes. So they put chest tubes through her rib cage. Pretty much they were, I don't know how that procedure works, to be honest, but they were putting medication through that tube, and they were tying the tubes, and once in a while they used to release that tube, so it was allowing all that fluid to come out of the lungs. But this doctor was always so negative, and I called the medical director at that hospital. I told him, I don't want this doctor to be near my wife. This person is very negative, and I don't need that, because right now, you guys, that came down the pipeline, and they removed this doctor. Um, and they assigned a different doctor, and this guy, I don't know, like, I really want to meet this doctor in person. I have not had that opportunity to meet him in person, even though that I reached out to the hospital a couple of times. This doctor, he was a godsend, to be honest with you. He was very positive. Um, all he did was to give me good news on a daily basis. And I remember one time he was like, "Hey, I have something going on my personal life this weekend. I'm not gonna be able to call you." And I was like, "Please, please, can I don't care. Can you just give me a call?" And this doctor actually, they were celebrating a birthday. He actually went to the hospital, checked on John Deleuze, and he personally called me. And he was like, "I promise you, I will call you." I said, "Oh my God, thank you so much." He was on the ECMO machine for 59 days. Well, let me go back. She was on the ECMO machine a little longer, but out of the coma, it was 59 days. Um, they started weaning her off on the ventilator and the ECMO. She was like half awake, of course. I was allowed to bring Mateo to the hospital. She met Mateo, and of course we were like masks, you name it, PPA, whatever they call it, gown up, gloves, you name it. The hospital, they started winding down John Deleuze from the ventilator, excuse me, and all of the crazy medication they were giving her. And that was another thing that I had to fight the hospital, because I was like, why she's on this and this and this and that? She's doing better. Why she's on this crazy medication to fall asleep? And she was taking antidepressants, and she was like half awake. That is going to be like a different story. Because that was another fight with the hospital. So I was allowed to go in with Mateo. It was recorded and everything. It's a video about on social media, because the hospital used that visit for marketing purposes, believe it or not, which is a good thing, right? It's a good thing, because it gives hope to people that were going through something similar, right? So it was pretty quick, of course, because her heart kind of went racing when she saw us going into the room. So that was another thing. They wanted to make sure that she was okay, because she was not able to talk, she was not able to move. At this point, she was in a coma for almost 3 months, no movement besides the physical therapy that they were doing in bed, which is not enough, right? She lost 1 a lot of weight and two, a lot of muscle mass. So she had no strength whatsoever, no strength. So when she held Mateo, actually, I overextended Mateo, and I was holding Mateo so she can pretty much touch Mateo, because she had no strength. So pretty much I was like, "Here's Mateo, say hi, touch him, we gotta go." That's what happened, pretty much. So right after that, that's when they started moving her away from the bed, and she was sitting in a chair, right? And then from there, they started the physical therapy, where she was trying to stand up. They were asking her like to move her legs, and it was very challenging for her. And she did struggle a lot, but she fought through it. She fought through it. And the beauty about this, again, technology is a beautiful thing. We were able to FaceTime Jandalis pretty much 2-3 times a day, even though that she had the ventilator. The hospital, they allowed me to visit Jandalis, take Mateo. Did this happen out of the blue? Like pretty much, we got a call from the hospital. Hey, you guys can come in. So we did that, and of course we had to wear a mask. We had to gown up. Uh, so we had to pretty much avoid to get her sick with something that we could bring into the room. or she can get Mateo sick. So it happened pretty quick. So it was recorded by the hospital, and they used our visit for marketing purposes, because the hospital, it was trying to to give hope to people that they were going through the same situation. So we went in, pretty much it was pretty quick, because of course, even though that she was half awake, they were saying, hey, we need to make sure that her heart is okay. We had to make sure that the blood pressure is okay. So it was a quick visit, but I was very grateful that the hospital allowed that, and that happened after 3 months. So and this is the actual first time that she saw Mateo, like
Wow.
actually, like physically see Mateo. The thing is that she was so weak that I had to handle Mateo to her, but I was actually holding Mateo the whole entire time because she had no strength whatsoever. So that was a good thing. She was not able to talk because she was still hooked up to the ventilator. It was, through her neck as well. So that happened. So that same week, they started moving John Deleuze from the bed into a chair, and they were doing physical therapy there while she was sitting. They were asking her to stand up, but she was so weak because she lost so much weight, and of course, she lost a lot of muscle mass after being in a coma for almost 3 months, not moving. So you name it, range of motion, strength, muscle mass. She lost all of that. So one of the things that actually the hospital did, instead of taking her um, to a different unit to do the therapy, they were doing the therapy in her room. So that helped a lot. So I want to fast forward when she got discharged from the hospital. That was another thing. Like like I said earlier, it was a mix of emotions. I still believe that the hospital could have done better.
Yeah.
Because they were like, oh, she's going into a inpatient rehab in downtown Orlando. She's gonna get transferred there, and she's gonna continue her rehab at this location. So we were like getting ready. Okay, so we had to prep, bring clothes to her. Probably we can, visit her more, bring Mateo, yada yada yada, right?
Right.
One day I get a call, and they were like, "She's going home," and I was like,
What?
"What?" I'm like, "What? Oh yeah, she's going home." It's like, okay, she's coming home. Okay, what I do now? So we were like all excited. Woohoo! She's coming home! Yay! It is very interesting because a couple days before she was discharged from the hospital, that's when they actually um they removed the ECMO cannulas.
Hmm.
I thought when they told me, hey, we're gonna remove the cannulas, I was thinking, oh geez, again to the OR, anesthesia, and all of that. No, they did it in the room. I was blown away when they said, oh no, we're gonna do it in the room. We're gonna remove the cannula, stitch it up, and she's good to go home. I was like, huh, interesting. Anyways, so she was sent home with an oxygen machine. That was very challenging, to be honest with you. It was a 120-pound machine that we had to carry everywhere.
Mm.
Uh, this machine had to be plugged in 24/7 for everything. Like for her to get out of the bed, she had to be hooked up to this machine. To go to the bathroom, to eat, she was hooked up to this machine 24. And I was asking the hospital, hey, can we get something better? Because moving this machine all over the house is very challenging. And they were like, oh, we can give you a longer cannula hose So you guys can, you know, move her, let's say, to the living room while the machine is in the room. You guys can unplug it, run to the living room, plug it back in, and we were like, I guess if we got to do that, I guess we do it. So I started doing some research, and I found this company that they actually have portable oxygen machines. And we were like, woo, yes, we can get one of those. So we did that. We got the portable machine, but we made a mistake. The machine that she was discharged from the hospital with was a machine with continuous oxygen
Oh,
flow. It does pulse. Not good enough, especially after her being, on a ventilator, on
hmm
the ECMO life support machine. Her lungs were weak. So
yeah.
for her to breathe and then getting a shot of oxygen,
Uh,
yeah, it was not that great. So, anyways, that happened. So she learned how to breathe using this portable machine. The interesting thing is that, like, to take a shower, she had to be hooked up to the 120-pound machine.
right,
And she had to be sitting because this other portable machine, it was no water resistant, and it
right.
was a really expensive oxygen machine. Where, believe it or not, insurance does not cover for that. Even though that it
Portable?
was the portable one
Yeah.
is not covered by the insurance. Even though that we had a reasoning behind, and I had again fighting the healthcare system. In
hmm
this case, the insurance company.
Right.
Um, I never got reimbursed from the
Oh,
insurance company to cover this machine, and I was like, you know what? So be it, right? So it was still very challenging on having this portable machine because she had to learn how to breathe
hmm
with this machine. Uh, and the beauty about this is when we she started receiving the physical therapy at the house. This therapist, it was another godsend. This person who was like, okay, I know it's gonna suck because it's no other way to describe this. It's gonna suck, but you got to push through it.
right.
And eventually she learned. She learned how to, go through her therapy session and being connected to a oxygen machine where it sends the oxygen when you breathe instead of having a machine that it was sending the oxygen, continuous flow. But physically, she was still not able to, like, to hold Mateo, like to stand up and hold Mateo, like get down to Mateo's level. It was very challenging for her. So she used to, like, sit, and we used to bring Mateo to her. Or you
Mm,
want to feed Mateo? Oh, so she had to sit, and we used to bring everything to her because
right.
even though that she was out of the hospital, it was still a lot of things that pretty much she had to build up.
Right.
One of them was her muscle mass and her strength. Until this day, she struggles. She still struggle. Even though myself, it was challenging as well.
Sure.
Because we live in a society that, oh, you are the man, you are the tough guy, nothing happens to you. But yeah, but I have my own struggles, but I never showed that to her
Right.
because I am second, right? She was the
Well,
priority.
not to her, but she was more the, yeah.
Right. So I never showed that to her. So we had the mindset, you need to get better, you need to get better, and
Mm,
we worked towards that. So around that time, that's when we bought a house, and actually all of that was put on hold because of what happened to John Deleuze.
right.
Um, so we finally closed on the home. and we moved in. And we were pretty scared. We were pretty scared. Like, what is gonna happen? You are not longer in this bubble, and we are like 30 minutes, 40 minutes away from the hospital. What if something happens, right? Like,
Right.
you always have that in the back of your mind. What is gonna happen? But she did great, and it was a lot of therapy sessions, a lot, a lot. And I still believe that COVID takes a toll on your body, and I still believe that even though that now she's able to run and chase Mateo, she's able to lift Mateo, pick him up, and do all of those activities with Mateo. It's not the same,
It's true.
including myself,
Yeah.
including myself. Even though that I was positive to COVID,
Mhm.
pretty much I had no symptoms. I had no symptoms whatsoever. But I know it took a toll.
Yeah.
I am not the same.
So let's make
Some
that clear because our listeners that are listening, I believe there's so many, they're saying 65 million documented cases. So, there's a ton more that are not documented cases of long COVID. You're saying you had COVID, you didn't have any symptoms, but you have long COVID symptoms now, right?
Yep,
And that's what I want people to understand is I think a lot of people don't realize, oh, I started having all these health problems after COVID, but there's 200 symptoms related to long COVID from COVID. And so you've got some of those. And I know we've
yep,
talked and you said you have the fatigue
yep.
and right. Yeah.
And before all of this happened, I used to work out 5, 6 times a week. Actually, I used to do CrossFit. I
Oh,
used to run. Um, Actually, I was running almost 30 miles a week. I had a Peloton bike. I tried to went back to CrossFit. Like, I feel like I'm drowning when I'm working out.
uh,
I try to run. I feel like my lungs are burning, like about to explode. The Peloton bike, don't get me started. It's like I can't
and
keep up with those classes anymore.
well, it just changes everybody's lives.
Yep,
COVID kind of just flipped everybody's lives upside down, but we're grateful that she's alive. We're grateful that she had you to give her that support and that hope, and Mateo home waiting for her so that when she came home. So I'm so glad that you had family. And I told her when we talked, I was shocked that she survived not having that family support in a room with her because I was able to have one person every 24 hours. And I know they saved my life because it helps hold the medical staff
hmm
accountable, right?
yep,
Because they're overworked and they were great. I mean, here I didn't have, they did all my surgeries right in my room, everything. Like they never took me out of that room. So all my intubation, well, I had two intubations, the tray, everything they did right there. So it's interesting to see and hear how the hospitals were handling it differently. And they were all
right,
scrambling. We have to remember to give them a little bit of grace because they
yep,
had no idea what they were doing if you think about it, right?
yep,
They and with long COVID, I'm paralleling it to that because same, they don't know what to do because they haven't had to deal with this before. We are their statistics, and that was the reason we started the nonprofit to help long COVID sufferers, and that's the reason we have this podcast to create the awareness so that people can be aware that this is happening. I mean,
it's
you got
real.
COVID and you never got sick with COVID, but the stress of probably everything that Deleuze was going through was probably doing things to your body too, not being unaware, just the extra added stress. So I'm just grateful that you're all here, and I'm grateful that you're willing to talk about it because I think we all want it to go away. Nobody wants it to go away more than somebody suffering from long
Right.
COVID, right? But anything you could end this with that is on your heart that you want to share with listeners, or maybe give them a little hope, more hope.
No, of course. So we believe in faith, right? And in our case, so we even though till this day we still pray, about our situation and what is still happening out there.
Yeah.
Because even though it's 2024 and people still getting sick
Yes.
on a daily basis, and all of these cases, like you said, they just put it under the rug, right?
Hmm.
Forget about it. But one of the things that I want to say is just keep your hopes up, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be faith based, or it doesn't mean that you need to believe in something, right? Of course, that helps. But if you have the right attitude, the right mentality, the will, the will to do things for
Hmm.
you and your family, that's what is going to make things better. And of course, it's going to be an uphill battle. Trust me, I know that. I was sitting first row. I know that. But of course, just keep in believing in yourself, keep believing in your family, and everything eventually will go well.
Yeah, that's great. A great message. And it's true. I mean, we all need something to believe in and hope for.
Yep.
It makes me sad when people don't have faith and they don't have that to help build them up, because that's what gives us hope, is believing that things can and will get better. And this is just a small period of time in the big eternity, right?
Yep.
Well, Emmanuel, thank you so much. That was so special to hear what you had to go through. And I'm sad that you did have to go through that, but right, they say what makes us, let's see, what is the saying? I can't even think of what it's called right now. Makes us
Something,
stronger.
something make you stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. The COVID fog still. I
Yeah.
have lots of that. Mine goes up and down all the time. So I
Oh,
understand, and it's just the way it is. So, well, everybody go back, and if you didn't catch John Delisa's interview that we did, you'll want to go back and listen to that one from her version. And now you got Emmanuel's to go along with it and got the rest of the story, right? So thank you so much. And I just pray everything keeps coming and moving forward for you. And, there's always hopefully a hope of another child coming where she'll get that experience to be able to hold a baby and that
yep.
kind of part. So anyway, so many thoughts were running through my mind while you were talking, and memories of my own memories of when you were going through that. So it's good. It's good to let people be aware and see what's going on. But join us on the next show, and we'll be having another wonderful guest, because that's all we attract here. And have a good day. Bye for
Thank you,
now.
Holly. Thank you. Bye bye.
Our biggest dream and desire is to bring lasting impact to the lives of the millions experiencing long COVID effects and symptoms all across the world. Please join us. You can reach out to us at adventurebucketwish.org.